At the start, we are introduced to Joe. Joe is attempting to end his life. His history haunts him too much. Joe wraps a plastic bag tightly over his skull. He intends to suffocate himself to death. While doing this, he starts counting from 50 backwards. Suddenly, he decides to stop. He returns to his current task. Joe came to this place to murder someone. That job is finished now. He begins to scrub the whole motel unit. He wants to leave 0 clues behind him. He washes every surface. Anything that looks dirty gets cleaned. He gathers the trash and walks out. Once outside, he tosses it into a bin. Joe feels like he has finished entirely today, so he starts strolling toward the main road. However, a guy was watching him. The stranger attempts to jump Joe suddenly. Joe is not an easy target. As soon as he notices, he slays the attacker. His own face stays clean of blood. He departs into the dark night. Eventually, he arrives at the big airport. After getting there, he finds a payphone. He dials a contact known as John. He reports that he is coming to kill them all. Immediately after speaking, he ends the call. He boards a plane back home. From the landing, he takes a taxi home. He notices a young girl nearby watching him. Joe turns around to look at her. He keeps his eyes on her until she goes. Once she leaves, Joe goes into his home. He finds his elderly mom sleeping there. He tries talking to her multiple times, but she gives him no answer at all. He starts taking her glasses off her face. He wants her to rest more easily. Suddenly, she wakes up and starts giggling. She claims that she was just tricking him. They both share a long laugh together now. His mother mentions she watched a frightening program tonight. She is feeling really spooked by the images. Hearing this, Joe clicks the television set off. He guides his mother into her small bedroom. But when the lights go out, she worries. She is still haunted by that scary story. She asks Joe to stay by her side. Joe remains there for a little while. Once she falls asleep, he goes to wash. After his bath, he picks up a book. Before he knows it, the sun is up. His mother begins yelling for him once again. Joe rushes over to see what happened. She says the bathroom floor is totally flooded. She cannot manage to turn the faucet off. She begs Joe to go mop it up. Joe does exactly what she asked of him. He goes and dries the entire tiled room. After finishing the chore, Joe exits the house. He heads over to the local grocery store. There, he meets a guy called Angel. Angel acts as the go-between for tasks. He brings fresh jobs to give to Joe. Angel pulls out a thick paper envelope. He hands it over, saying the client wants a meeting. Joe doesn't say a single word about that. He pulls a few bills from the packet. He hands this cash over to Angel. Then he mentions that Angel's kid keeps watching him. Whenever Joe leaves the front of his house, the boy is always staring at his face. Even when Joe goes back inside the building, the kid is still watching. Angel says he is just a child. He promises to talk to the boy. Hearing this, Joe walks away from that spot. Back home, he helps his mother with work. He washes up the dirty kitchen plates. He wipes down the inside of the fridge. He sits near his mother and they sing. His mother brings up a certain woman, someone Joe was seeing 20 years ago. Her name was Janice. His mother thinks marrying her was better. She would have been a great parent, she says. But Joe doesn't care about that now. He is constantly seeing pictures of the past, all the terrible things done in the desert, and the work he did for the Bureau. This makes him feel very stressed and low. He can't find any comfort anywhere he goes. He spends half his time inside the house, and the other half wandering around the streets. He gets lost in his own dark thoughts. Suddenly, John gives him a quick phone call. Joe goes to meet John in person. John is the one who manages his jobs. Joe explains that he is feeling very uneasy. He tells John that someone sent flowers home. That means a person has found his location. Only one man has his secret street address. That person is Angel. Joe thinks Angel must be removed now. He is giving away Joe's private home details. John says he will think about that suggestion. Joe asks why this meeting was so vital. John explains the next task is very unique. The child of Senator Voto was stolen away. He wants Joe to handle the rescue mission. Joe will receive a payment for his help. They are offering $50,000 for this. It is a huge amount of money, clearly, but the mission will be extremely risky to do. The kidnappers are likely holding the young girl. However, the senator wants a face-to-face talk. After hearing the details, Joe meets the senator. The man says his daughter is named Nina. He works for the government in a high post, but he cannot solve this problem using official ways. If the criminals find out he is involved, they might sell the girl or kill her. So he needs Joe to work very secretly. He promises Joe a massive reward for success. Then he shows Joe a photo of Nina. He gives the address of the brothel house. That is where they keep all the kids. Joe agrees to take the job. He begins preparing for the coming violent night. First, he gets a rental car for travel. He starts gathering the tools he might need. He scouts the perimeter of the target building. He looks for a way to get inside. On the street, he encounters a few girls. They ask him to take their group photo, but looking through the lens triggers a memory. Terrible scenes from his past start to return. Joe feels very shaken and goes for pills. The man selling the medicine is running late. Joe hits him for making him wait there. He warns the man to be punctual later. He buys some extra supplies for the coming fight. He sits in a hot steam room alone. He wants to clear his mind and focus. After a while, his preparation is finally done. He starts humming that old song from home, the same melody he shared with his mother. Joe does this to stay calm and ready. He travels to the house where Nina is. He stands across from the front entrance door. He realizes that getting inside will be difficult. He spots a regular visitor at the gate. Joe watches the man's every move. After waiting, he approaches the man from behind. He knocks him down and drags him away. He pulls the man into his rental car. He starts questioning him about the building's layout. He demands to know the way to enter. He asks for the secret to opening doors. The terrified man reveals every single detail he knows. He explains there is a special entry code. Without saying it, the door stays locked tight. After talking, he gives Joe the correct numbers. Joe knocks the man out cold inside. He grabs a heavy hammer and heads in. He unlocks the door and enters the hallway. Once inside, he starts killing all the guards. Anyone who stands in his way gets hit. Joe takes them down with his blunt weapon. He checks every single room in the house. Finally, he discovers Nina locked in a bedroom. He lifts her up onto his strong shoulder. He begins the walk back to the street. More thugs try to stop him from leaving, but Joe fights them off with brutal force. He eventually eliminates every threat in the building. He steps outside into the cool air with Nina. He places the girl safely in the vehicle. They drive away from that terrible place together. He talks softly to her during the trip. He asks her if she needs some water. He is very kind and gentle with her. Seeing his kindness, Nina realizes Joe is a savior. She leans over and gives him a hug. Joe tells her she is safe from harm. He says her father is the one responsible. He promises to return her to him very soon. He takes her to a quiet hotel room. They both wash up and turn on TV. They see a shocking news report on screen. Nina's father has leapt from a high building. He has taken his own life today. After hearing this, Joe feels a deep dread. He worries about the girl's future right now. He tries his best to comfort the child. He swears that he will protect her always. He says he will handle everything for her. While they are talking, the doorbell rings loudly. Joe goes to open the door to check. He sees the hotel manager standing in front. Suddenly, 2 police officers appear in the hall. They shoot the manager directly in the head. Blood splashes all over Joe's tired face. Joe and Nina sit frozen in the room. One officer grabs Nina and pulls her away. She is dragged out into the hallway. The other officer points a gun at Joe. Nina screams Joe's name for help, but the cop takes the girl away. Joe feels that something is very wrong here. He realizes these men are not real heroes. The officer holding the gun isn't making an arrest. He is preparing to pull the trigger instead. Joe reacts fast and fights for his life. He attacks the officer until the man dies. After the struggle, Joe stumbles out of the hotel. He realizes he was hit by a stray bullet. He is in a very bad physical state. He cannot risk going to a public hospital. He treats the painful wound by himself at home. Once he recovers a bit, he calls John. But his handler is not picking up his phone. Joe feels a mounting sense of dread. He is certain something terrible has happened to John, so he drives directly to John's residence. Inside the house, the grim reality hits him. Those people have already murdered John. Joe begins a desperate search throughout the rooms, looking for anything that might help him. He eventually discovers a hidden firearm. Joe takes the weapon for protection. He leaves the scene in John's vehicle, hoping to find some shred of evidence that John might still be breathing, though deep down he knows the truth. He reaches the office and finds John's cold, lifeless body right there in front of him. Looking closely at the remains, Joe realizes that John was subjected to brutal torture before he was finally killed. This discovery only heightens Joe's paranoia and fear. He realizes that Angel might be the next target on their list. He tries to call Angel immediately. At that same moment, we see two cold-blooded killers holding guns to the heads of Angel and his young son. Without hesitation, the men execute them both. Joe's anxiety reaches a breaking point. He knows he has to get back to his own home as fast as possible. However, he is cautious. He knows the front door is likely watched. Instead, he sneaks into the building through the back entrance. He finds his mother lying on her bed. The moment he looks at her, he understands that she, too, has been murdered. Seeing his mother's corpse causes Joe to fall into a deep, painful emotional breakdown. He begins to gather his personal belongings, his mind racing. Suddenly, the sound of two men's voices reaches him. He knows instantly that these are the same killers who took his mother's life. They are waiting for him to show up. Joe begins to descend the stairs with extreme caution. He draws his gun and aims it toward the two intruders. Even in this high-stakes moment, vivid flashes of his traumatic past continue to haunt him. Joe struggles but manages to keep his composure. He opens fire on both men, dropping them to the floor. One of them dies instantly. The other man is still alive, shivering and moaning in immense pain. Joe approaches the survivor and strikes him again to ensure he stays down. He demands answers to his questions. In a strange, quiet moment, Joe gives the man a painkiller. He asks the man why they killed everyone and who they are working for. He needs to know what is really happening. The dying man begins to reveal the dark story. He explains that they are employees of Governor Williams. He says the governor has a predatory obsession with young girls, and Nina is his absolute favorite. That is why all this violence occurred, just to get Nina back for him. Joe then asks the man if they were the ones who killed the senator. The man explains that the senator used to be a partner of the governor. However, the senator began causing problems for the governor's operation. After the tragedy involving his daughter, the senator couldn't live with the guilt and took his own life. Joe then asks a final, personal question. Was his mother scared when they killed her? The man tells him no, she was fast asleep when they took her life. Joe kills the man. He returns to his mother's side. He cleans her body with care and then cleans himself up. He carries his mother's body to the car and drives away. Eventually, he arrives at the edge of a river. He starts picking up heavy stones from the ground and stuffing them into his pockets. He carries his mother's body into the middle of the river. As he sinks into the water with her, it appears that Joe truly wants to end his own life. But as he goes under, he sees a vision of Nina in the water. This is just a manifestation of his own mind, but it reminds him that Nina is still in danger. He realizes he is the only one who can save her. He pulls the heavy stones out of his pockets and swims back to the surface. He leaves the river, determined to find her. As he sits on a bus, he begins to piece together the entire conspiracy. He remembers that the senator was actually deeply involved in the kidnapping ring. The senator had deliberately handed his own daughter over to the governor to gain political favor and become more important to him. However, the weight of his actions eventually broke the senator. He realized the horror of what he had done to his child, which led to his suicide. Now, Joe has finally tracked the governor down. He begins to shadow the man, following him all the way to his private residence. Inside the house, Joe sees disturbing photographs of very young girls. It confirms that the governor is exactly the monster the hitman described. Joe is consumed by a blinding rage. He uses his hands and his weapon to beat back anyone who stands in his way. He fights his way into the heart of the home. When he finally bursts into the governor's private room, he stops. He finds the governor's corpse lying on the floor. Someone has already slit his throat. Seeing this makes Joe spiral into a state of panic again. He feels that he failed by arriving too late. He starts repeating the same words over and over, telling himself that he is weak. But after a few moments, he pulls himself together. He begins to search the rest of the mansion. He finds Nina sitting quietly at the dining table. She is holding a bloodstained knife. Looking at her and the blade, Joe realizes the truth. Nina is the one who killed the governor. He goes over to her, wanting to protect and comfort her because she is just a child who has been through so much. But when Nina notices how worried Joe looks, she tells him there is nothing to fear. She calmly says that she is absolutely fine. Joe takes Nina's hand and they leave the house together. Sometime later, they arrive at a quiet diner. Nina asks Joe what they are going to do now and where they will go. Joe tells her they can go wherever she wants and do anything she chooses. Nina tells him she is going to use the washroom. Joe sits at the table, but the voices in his head return. He starts reliving his old trauma. He takes out his gun and imagines blowing his brains out right there. At that moment, Nina returns and wakes him from his dark trance. Joe snaps back to reality and we realize that his death was just a vivid thought in his head. Nina tells Joe that it is time to go because today is a very beautiful day. Joe stands up and walks out with her, and the movie ends there.